Alright, so mentioned in the last video, this terminal here, this terminal, well, mostly just this terminal here, wants to interfere with my lovely homemade wheelbarrow firewall. So what I'm going to do is rotate this whole assembly and clock it so that those terminals point down. Got the motor separated here. Tried to do a couple different things, but my vertical arrangement, I just keep coming back to that. It just makes using the hoist so much easier. As I usually do with this keyed connector, you can see there's some, well, you can see in there, but a fair bit of corrosion. Thing of being on coastal Texas, John pointed out, just as soon as you got done, you take it out and out in the garage, and it starts rusting. But luckily, it actually came apart pretty smoothly. I had to, as you can see, do a little bit of tapping to get it to break loose. It didn't, definitely did not just slide apart. It took some application of leverage, unfortunately, which I hate doing, but I'm gonna get stuck. But anyway, so you can see this is the coupling. This one from Lonestar has the 1 1/8" keyed connector. Can also switch it around so that it uses the spline connector, 32 spline. This is the way it was set up, and I don't know, I guess I have them apart. I could switch it around, but I'm not going to. I'd have to send these to John, and then he would send me the other ones. And the other thing is it would add more length, which I don't know would work, because I'm not sure if I'd have to cut this guy down, and there's some modifications that had to be made previously. So I'm going to rotate this, clock it. Hopefully I can clock it so that I can still get to all the brushes, but we'll find out. Alright, the first motor is off, and I need to pull the second motor off. I could do them one at a time, except for a couple things. One, there's a slight interference, and the second is just to make, I got to make sure I can have the clocking just right so that the terminals don't hit each other. One of the nice things about this setup here is there are 6 bolts, and they're an equal pattern, unlike the TH400 tail spout, which has 2 holes that are off. But these are equal, so I can clock it at 6 increments as opposed to just 4. So it gives me a lot more control. Otherwise, the terminal that was sticking out on the side would stick into the other motor. I'm hoping that I can point this one out and that one out. They'll be very close together, but should still work. We'll see. And if need be, I'll have 2 terminals pointing out the bottom here, and then those 2 pointing out the top. I just can't have one hanging out here on the side. That's the key thing. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show on this is something I've run into a lot with these keyways. I was talking about in the last video, but they just, I don't know if it's fretting corrosion or galling or just straight corrosion, as the case may be on this one, because there's a fair bit of surface corrosion. But you can see this chain is tight. It's pretty much lifting up the whole assembly. So I got a fair bit of tension, but it's just not coming out. I've got all the bolts out, and even putting a lever on it. You can actually see it rotating around. It's what happens is the shaft gets stuck on the coupler. I've run this, fortunately, way too many times. Repeat my dislike of the keyed and my preference for the spline, but it is what it is. So I'll get this apart and get it fixed. Alright, got the motors put back in. Again, luckily the adapter pattern is a 6-bolt pattern, so it allowed me to clock. So before, I had a stud sticking out like right about here, and then about up top here. Of course, and then likewise on the other side. It works fine for a dragster, but when I'm trying to fit in a transmission tunnel, not so much. But I was able to clock it over. So now I've got the terminals pointed down. Plenty of room to clear the trans tunnel on this side. Still be a little tight there, but since it bells out at the bottom, should be good. Had to make sure to install those set of brushes. I could have clocked it such that these two faces faced each other, and then I would have been able to get to the brushes, but then the terminals still stuck out too much to the side. So anyway, final install this. Might know if John might put the right hardware in there, and then I'll put it back in, start fabbing up. Well, finish up the trans tunnel, put it in, start fabbing up the motor mount. It's going to tie into these lugs here, so I'll probably make up a plate and a mount for that, and then pick up on the old engine mount, and then tie to the front cross member. But the losing sun, and you wouldn't believe that it's January, but it is. School clouds, but anyway, stay tuned.